we have with us also Mr. Ram Gopal, Barclays Bank of India, the Chief Executive Officer. Very, very warm welcome to you, sir.
This question is to Mr. Ram Gopal. There is a common perception that banks are in a race to launch the product first, and what we have seen is majority of times when you go to meet the branch staff or the end customer, they are not aware about these tech-based products. So, is the product launches of the bank more of a PR story rather than solving the customer problem? What is your view, Ram?
Thank you so much, Vikas. That's a pertinent question. But before I jump into that, I just wanted to congratulate Anuradha and you on your anniversary of this new baby of yours, and also to the wider community. I think I've been associated with this since idea, and to see it at such a mature stage, it is really very nice to see the evolution. One quick comment, this is to the question that you posed to Vasudevan sir. I remember when I joined the banking industry some 30 years ago, I think there was this distinction between the front office and the back office. And I started in the back office. So over my career, I seem to have now landed at a stage where the back office is literally the business now. ONT, or Ops and Technology, is literally creating business models today. So to that extent, I think the journey I have traveled. Now the next journey is banks itself becoming back office. So thankfully, I'm one leg in the grave. Maybe the next generation coming in will possibly face the situation of the relevance for banks. So well said, Vasudevan sir. Coming to the question that you were asking about, whether this is a PR drill. Now, because there are many different angles one can use to answer this question. Of course, you could use the lens of this tyranny of complexity. The banks, have a suite of products or suite of product features, and there is no ABC analysis done over time. There is clutter with no clear delineation of what creates value and what doesn't. So there's one perspective. But the perspective that I bring forth today is perspective of, does first mover advantage exist? And the thesis that I have is these banks rushing or fintechs rushing or anybody rushing to launch products, etc., could be because they are after this first mover advantage. This is of interest to us because we are a 325-year-old elephant, and sometimes elephant can't be taught new tricks to dance, right? So we kind of figure out whether it is advantageous for us to be first movers. Yeah, sometimes the same question could be it's not a choice of whether we want to be in a product category or not, but it could be a question of whether we want to do it now or later. So I think if you look at that as the perspective to which I want to approach your question, then I guess, my thesis is that it isn't, naturally the case that the first mover advantage exists. It does exist, but not categorically so. And there are two, I think, defining characteristics when one needs to think about whether there is first mover advantage or not. And that is one about how is your product or technology evolving? What is the pace of change of the technology or the product? And the second dimension is what is the pace at which the market for which that product or technology is catering to is evolving. So I think these two questions are a necessary question to understand from what resources the firm has in order to answer the question of whether there is first mover advantage or not. And if you think about this, you can do a simple 2x2 grid, right? On one side, you would have market evolution, slow and fast. And the other one, you would have technology or product evolution, slow and fast. And you have 4 quadrants. and you can, in the classic BCG style, you can start naming them depending upon how you would like to think about it. So the one that I want to talk about is one extreme, which is what I call the calm waters, where the pace of evolution of the product is slow, where the market is also evolving slow. And like I said, I am not a digital native, I am a migrant. So my examples are, let's say the vacuum cleaner or the Scotch tape. I mean, neither the market nor the product has really changed, right? The vacuum cleaner was discovered sometime in or invented sometime in 1908. It was like a stick with a bag. And then in 1935, an innovation came whereby they put all the vacuum components in a canister. But literally, technology around vacuum cleaning hasn't really changed. Even today, I don't think really this has changed much. And even if you look at market penetration, I think 1935, when that canister was brought in, there was only 5% of households where it had penetrated. So in those cases where the market is moving slow, where the technology is moving slow, I think the first mover advantage is possibly there. And frankly, Vikas, is there any market like that today? So which is rough waters, where the technology is evolving fast, the product or the market is evolving fast, which is where much of us find ourselves in the 21st century, right? And here there are a couple of things that I think make sense. I think in some sense, first movers make sense if there is a go in and go out strategy, if you can time your exit properly. And if you look at some of the success stories that we have seen in the startup world today, I think the founders are very smart, right? I think they're kind of timing the exit very well, because neither do they have the resources or the brand recognition or top of mind recall for customers in order for them to play long. So at the first opportunity, I think they are willing to exit. And a classic example of that is, if you go back again, a digital migrant example is how Netscape, in the browser technology, they sold out to AOL just around the time Microsoft came up with their Internet Explorer. So all in all, long story short, all I'm saying in response to that, I would carefully, if you want to really make money, not just growth, but profitability, then I would look at the characteristics of the market, I would look at the characteristics of the product technology, and I look at the firm's own resources. Do I have the brand? Do I have the financial wherewithal? Do I have the marketing clout? Do I have the distribution? And what can I bring to bear if I want to play this first mover advantage? Otherwise, doing it because I've got something, to build up a hype. So long story, but that is my response.
Great. So second thing is about, while you talked about the early exits and making money, the question was about, are we putting customers at risk by launching products which they are not educated and pushing these products onto the customer through the branch channel, which is not ready to take on these kind of products queries. Now, to put it further, do you perceive digital literacy as more of an obligation and more of a CSR activity on the part of the banks, or maybe even for the fintech companies, or do you see that as a tool for customer acquisition? Because what we have seen is the digital literacy is more of a number game. People say that I have done 1,000 trainings, 1 million people got educated, and the qualitative aspect of the digital literacy is missing, and a lot of technology tools are used, but the experience of the chatbots or AI-based solution has been really frustrating. So, what is your view on the human aspect of digital literacy?
I think very pertinent point, because I think digital literacy, financial literacy, and maybe credit counseling, I think these are, in my mind, the key pillars for our next step forward. But let's just kind of think about this, I think the first and the foremost, I'm from the camp, and I believe this wholeheartedly, that I think this is beyond CSR. The literacy efforts goes beyond CSR. It is certainly an acquisition and retention tool. If you talk to anybody, and in your own experience, you would know this, because I think, we talk about one of the principal enablers for digital transformation in any company is, internally looking, it's all about, culture is nothing but very similar things, right? You facilitate the right environment inside the company, it's called culture. When you try and do it externally to the company, it's the literacy effort. That's how I see it. So I think it is intrinsic in how we have to think about, the days to come. And I can, maybe a couple of quick anecdotes from, our call center, just to bring home the point around what's the human element. And before that, I think I agree with you on the chatbots. In fact, I don't think you followed this. Forrester Research had predicted that 2019 would be the year when you would have customer backlash on chatbots, because slowly but surely the NLPs, the natural language processing, has become mainstream in customer service, that people think that AI chatbots is like a shortcut to support costs. And therefore, there is no question that it has created dissonance. But I think, in order to improve context and for the ability of the chatbots to understand context and intent, I think there is a whole journey to travel. But quickly coming back to these couple anecdotes from the call center, that kind of brings the human element to this. So this is about a 78-year-old, and this is of course a UK customer. But I mean, the situation is the context is so transferable even to the Indian. He was looking to send money to her grandson, and the grandson is based in Australia. So she's been trying to go into our open banking website and trying to locate the Aussie dollar to make payments. And after a lot of struggle, she came to us at the call center, and the agent spent an hour with her trying to take her through the steps of how to make that international transfer. And one of the efforts for digital literacy that we have is this demos, digital demos as we call it. We sent that over to the client and said that maybe we could set up some time tomorrow and try and take her through, because she was getting frustrated after spending about an hour on the call with us. And the next day morning, when our agent called her, to our surprise, we found that she had progressed a little more than she was at the last day. And this time around, she found where the Aussie dollar was, and she was able to conduct that transaction all by herself. Not only that, she followed sending a transport to another grandson, this time inside the UK itself. So, a simple example which shows that how it is important for some of these, like me, migrants, to be able to understand how to engage with these digital tools. The other example is on the acquisition side. Another example is we have something called digital zones. So a client gets referred from the banking hall into the digital zone. This gen comes to us and tells us that, hey, I want to help register this new device for your mobile app, because we have a registration process. And as the agent was doing that, we get to ask the customer as to why is it that he is looking for new registration, because he's a customer of long. And he says that, his phone got damaged and here is a new phone. And that was a good moment for our agent to cross-sell what we call as a Barclays tech package, which is some insurance for the tech devices, etc. So some simple examples which proves the point that literacy, when in a moment, I think will certainly gain currency. So I'm certainly in the camp that it is beyond CSR. I think it's a vital tool, and I think it is going to predicate success for digital transformation.
Fantastic, fantastic, sir. This was a brilliant answer. And